Maui County probably has the most complicated tax structure. And if you look at all of the different tiers here, right, that's if you are an owner occupant and you have an exemption. Owner occupied rates are always the absolute lowest. And then if you're vacation rental, they really tax you at a high rate. So, hey, what's going on, friends? Property tax rates for the entire state of Hawaii are out. So I got all of the information for you, all of the data. I'm going to try my best to explain it because property taxes can be a little bit confusing. And what I'm going to show you here, I got a guide for you all ready to go. If you want a copy of this, just hit me up. You can email me, book a meeting with me. I'll get you this to you so you can kind of understand it and break down the property taxes for your potential property or the one that you already own. So the first thing to understand about Hawaii property taxes is they're relatively low compared to other places and definitely mainland states. That's definitely feedback we get pretty often. And the thing about understanding rates is that they're different on every island. So I'm going to go through and break down each island's rates and show you what the differences are. There's some similarities. In general, the rates are pretty consistent. There's some variations, but depending on the property class, rates are relatively consistent, but they're definitely different in the way each county handles rates varies. And so first, looking at Honolulu County, pretty much the simplest property tax structure that we have, right? We have the residential a rate of $350. And one of the things I want to talk about to kind of preference all of this is the way that the counties publish tax rates is a little bit confusing. They say they give you a rate per $1,000 of valuation. So they tell you it's $3.50 per $1,000 of valuation. Really what you got to do is move the decimal point 2 times and it's 3.5%, right, is what it is. So that is an easier way to kind of figure out what property taxes are, so you can do a calculation, because sometimes doing $3.50 per $1,000 doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And so it's $350 for residential, it's $13.90 for hotel resorts, so obviously way higher. If you're a residential user, your property tax rate is very, very low. If it's a commercial property, it's $12.40, and then for bed and breakfast, it's $6.50. So that's in general the breakdown of property taxes in Honolulu County. And then they also have a tiered system for residential and transient vacation properties, and the higher rate will apply applying to the more valuable property type. So that's an important piece of it, is that the tiered property tax structure, and this is what it looks like here, is if you are up to $1 million of a residential property, you pay $4. If you're above $1 million, you pay $11.40. So that amount is applied to the valuation above the $1 million. So you pay $4 on the first million, and then you would pay $11.40 for every dollar valuation above the $1 million. So you kind of have 2 rates on one property because of the way their tiered system works. And then on transient vacation properties, it's $9 up to $800,000, and then $11.50 over $800,000. So depending on the price of your property, there's some variation. You got to apply the appropriate tax rate based on the tier, and a lot of the counties are doing a similar type thing. So looking over at Maui County, Maui County probably has the most complicated tax structure. And if you look at all of the different tiers here, right? So if you're owner occupied residential, tier 1 is up to 1.3 million, and that's $1.65. If tier 2 is 1.3 to 4.5 million, and it's $1.80. And then anything above 4.5 million is $5.75. So it jumps pretty significantly, even if it's owner occupied and it's above $4.5 million. If you're non-owner occupied, so residential property that you don't occupy, tier 1 is up to $1 million and it's $5.85. Tier 2 is 1 million to 3 million and it's $8.60. And then tier 3 is over 3 million and it's $17. So super high if it's a residential property that is over $3 million. So that translates into about 1.7%, right? Versus, 0.5% if you are in tier 1. So it's almost 3 times higher if it's an over $1 million property or over $3 million property. And then hotel resort is $11.80. So that's kind of consistent if you look across the board at the different counties. The hotel resort cost is pretty much the same. And then some additional tax classifications on Maui. They have apartment, commercial, industrial, agricultural, conservation. I'm not going to go through all of these. A lot of these don't apply to most folks, but the long-term rental tiers definitely do. So if you have a residential property and you put it into the long-term rental pool up to 1.3 million, you pay $2.95. If you are a tier 2, which is 1.3 to 3 million, you pay $5. And then anything above 3 million is $850. So Maui does try and incentivize long-term rentals by giving them a lower property tax rate than vacation rentals, which makes sense because there definitely is a housing shortage on Maui, and that's one way to incentivize owners to put their properties into a long-term rental pool versus a short-term rental pool is via better tax treatment. If you're looking to relocate here on the Big Island, I want to share with you a resource that we put together. Over 80 agents from my team, expert agents here on the Big Island, put together a relocation guide that will help you evaluate all of the important factors that you want to take into account before you move here to the Big Island. School districts, healthcare, employment, all of the things that you got to think about, we put into one home buyer's guide that will help you figure out what is best when you start this relocation process here to the Big Island. So if you want this guide, just click on the link below, fill out the form. We will send you the guide for free. And if you want to take the next steps and have a conversation with us, we'd be happy to help. Hawaii tax. So Hawaii County property taxes are pretty straightforward. It's one of the more simple ones, but the homeowner rate is $595. And then the residential, so that's if you are an owner occupant and you have an exemption. So there's some paperwork you got to do with the county, but if you are an owner occupant, you file the paperwork and you get that lower tax rate of $595. If you're just a residential property, so this is anything that you don't own or occupy, you're going to pay $1,110 for any property, any valuation under $2 million, and then you're going to pay $1,360 for any valuation above $2 million. And then the hotel resort fee is $1,155, which is pretty similar to the other counties for that hotel resort classification. And then on Kauai, owner occupied, again, the owner occupied rates are always the absolute lowest, right? $259 for owner occupied, commercials $810, industrials $810, agricultural is $675, conservation is $675, and then hotel resort is $1175, pretty consistent. And then owner occupied mixed use, if you have like commercial mixed use with owner occupied, it's $5.05. And then they also have the tiered system for non-owner occupied properties and vacation rentals. And so the tier 1 for a non-owner occupied property is up to 1.3 million, it's $545. Tier 2 is 1.3 to 2 million, it's $605. And then tier 3 is over 2 million, which is $940. And then if you're a vacation rental, they really tax you at a high rate. So if you're up to 1 million, it's $1,130. If you are 1 million to 2.5 million, it's $1,175. And if you're over 2.5 million, it's $1,220. So really high tax rate if you are on Kauai and you are using your property for a vacation rental. And then so finally, kind of to wrap up here, some key takeaways about Hawaii property tax rates is, although they feel relatively low to mainland states, it's super important to understand how you use it, because if you're an owner occupant, it feels very, very low. But if you are not an owner occupant and you're using it as a vacation rental, it can seem higher. So it varies pretty significantly depending on how you use the property. And that's the second takeaway here is, depending on how you file your taxes and whether you use it as a primary residence really will significantly impact it. So think about that long run and what your costs are going to be for housing, because your property tax rate can change. And definitely if you're purchasing a property, it can change from the current use. So if somebody's currently using it as a vacation rental and you're going to use it as a primary residence, your rate will come down significantly, and you want to think about what that projected cost is going to be. There's a lot of these tiered structures, right? So understanding higher valuations get taxed at higher rates. And so like if you're buying a property that is like at $999,000 and you might cross that $1 million valuation, you could change your tax rate significantly based on the county and kind of their tiering criteria. And it's super important to understand. Number 4, each county has a very kind of unique structure. So you want to do your research and understand what it is before you buy, and you know what your long-term costs are going to be when it comes to property taxes, because each county has very unique structures and how they handle this. And again, this is for 2025. These structures change every year when the county councils publish new tax rates. So if you're watching this in the future, the tax rates could be different. Don't take my word for it. Make sure you do some research and verify with the counties on what your current classification is, what tier you're in, and how you're going to use it to get an accurate idea of taxes. But this is a quick rundown. If you want this guide, just reach out to me. I can send it over to you. And if you have any other questions about anything Hawaii real estate related, you can always reach out to me at dylan@buybigisland.com or click on the link below, and you can book a meeting with me, pick a good time, and happy to have a conversation and answer any of your questions. As always, guys, appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next week. Aloha.